All right, good afternoon. So you're here at Introduction to BlackBerry World, JAM session 346. My name is Naveen Nigam, Global Head of BlackBerry World Operations. We're still getting used to changing a lot. So if anyone says RIM, they have to put $1 in the RIM jar because it's now BlackBerry, and same thing goes, it's BlackBerry World as opposed to App World. With me, I have Peter Valin, the Senior Manager for BlackBerry World and Content Marketing, and Tamara Moona, the Product Manager for BlackBerry World. So we're going to get started right away. And what are we looking to answer here? So ultimately, there's 4 questions. What do we allow on BlackBerry World? Really from when you start building an application, to know where the fine line is. Is this legal, illegal? It's a gray area, but will BlackBerry accept it or not? Then what features are in BlackBerry World storefront? So what features are helping you? What's important to know so that your user base is well aware of it? Then how to submit and manage your products through the vendor portal. What needs to be done? What can you do? What do you have the ability to do? And questions on that. And then how to market. We're going to be talking about the marketing strategies and everything. Again, more tools for you all to use. Before we get started, though, what I'd like to know is how many of you are not already registered as a BlackBerry World vendor? There's a few of you. Oh, okay, more. There we go. Okay, so majority of you guys have already gone through the process of registering as a vendor, and hopefully as a vendor you've also already submitted your application. So we will be going through that as well, but we want to make this session as interactive as possible. So if you do have any questions, feel free to either wait till the end when we have our Q&A period, or just raise your hand and we'll try to address it immediately. Nothing else. So vetting criteria, really, what's allowed, what's not allowed. So this section I'm going to be going over, and fair warning, it is probably the most boring slides you've seen, but important information nevertheless. So obviously we recognize in order for BlackBerry to be successful, we need to be successful with our partners and empower you guys with the best information to know what does it take to make a high quality app. And the first step to that is what's allowed, what's not allowed. So there is a BlackBerry World vendor guidelines that's posted right in the vendor portal when you go to sign in. I do urge everyone to go through, read that in detail, make sure you understand it. The following slides, I'm giving you the general overview so that the generic question that people have, when it comes to alcohol, what's allowed, what's not allowed? When it comes to illicit drugs, what's allowed, what's not allowed? But I still urge you, there is a website here, and we are going to be handing the deck out later. So if you have any questions, go ahead and check out the link as well. So functionality, your app has to work. It's as simple as that. What are some of the things that we look at? And this is specifically catered around our vetting criteria, so our vetting processes. We're looking for broken links, broken buttons, crash or force closure while you're actually using the application. The keyboard, if the keyboard doesn't pop up as soon as you want to input any sort of text, if it's not mapping correctly, we're looking for issues with the keyboard. If the primary function of the app is marketing or it's purely spam, we're not allowing applications of that nature. Navigation issues. One of the key highlights with BlackBerry 10 is that once you're in any sort of app, you can easily swipe up and go back to your home page. Or swipe up, minimize it, do the peek. If we're not able to do that while using your application, it will be denied. Provide inaccurate diagnostic or device data. So there's a lot of battery boost applications that are out there. A lot of, okay, how much memory is your device using right now? Very few of them seldomly actually work based on the way that everything's structured. So we do look at those apps very carefully and see, are they actually doing this properly? Or is it purely a marketing scheme? Or is it just trying to get hits, trying to get people to download their application, when in reality the functionality itself is, if not none, minimal. Functionality and description do not match. Surprisingly, we actually get a lot of these, where the app says, or in the description, it can do X, Y, Z. When you actually go into the app, it barely does X. So definitely we need a match between the description and the actual functionality. Accelerometer issues. Damages the device or causes excessive battery drain. Again, we are testing for that. So when you're building your application, try to make sure you use the best practices to optimize the battery usage. Copycat apps. I am going to be touching on this a little later when we talk about infringement and privacy issues. But basically, if you're looking at building an app or jumping on another successful brand, we are looking out for those and we are looking to take them down. We actually have a whole process. So if you actually notice that you've worked really hard on building an application and you realize 2 days later someone ripped it off and submitted it in, if you catch that, we have a full process and flow. You can let us know and provide us the necessary documentation, and we can actually pull them down. So now I'm going to talk about metadata and images. So when you submit your application, you're also submitting screenshots, icons, putting in a long description, short description. We also review all of that content. And in reviewing that, here are some of the things that you should be watchful for. So again, the description cannot be solely available in non-English. So there's a lot of apps that will be available in non-English. However, the description should be available in English as well as the other non-English language. This helps from a vetting perspective, and also when depending on the web store, what happens is a lot of people, they don't specify a language. So if they haven't specified a language, English is there as default. And in those instances, we ensure that all descriptions are in English as well. So when you go into the vendor portal, you'll see different languages that you can choose from. Make sure English is filled out, and then put it in to the other languages. One tip that we share is that if your application is in another language, within the English description, make sure to say that this app is in German or insert language here. App name and description cannot contain profanity. Simple enough. We have a rating system now, so we allow certain level of profanity, a little bit more risque content, but that doesn't change anything for the app name and description. The app name and description should be appropriate for all ages. In other words, no profanity. Similarly, app names can't start with special characters. Now, there are a few exceptions if people actually have their app name or vendor name registered with a special character as the very first letter. Other than that, we've seen a lot of people who try to just put their app name with a special character because they know it'll reach the top of the list if anything's going alphabetically. We don't allow that. Similarly, if someone started their app name and had 3 A's at the beginning or 5 A's, you'd be surprised at the type of stuff that we see. So again, we don't allow it. App name or description cannot refer to unannounced BlackBerry OSs or devices. You guys are a select group. Our developer community gets a lot of pre-release devices. You're aware of a lot more information than the general public. And for that intents and purposes, that doesn't mean that you try to market an app for an unreleased device. And so if we do see that, we're going to ask you, please make the necessary changes because the general public is not aware of this device coming up, so don't cater your application for a device that hasn't been released. Apps must be posted in the relevant category. This seems like a no-brainer, yet there's a lot of people who don't seem to get this. So we need to make sure to highlight this, that look at the category that you're posting your app and make sure it makes sense. Content ratings cannot be manipulated for greater exposure. If your app is adult in nature, rate it as such. If we catch you having an adult type application, but it's being rated as general or even teen, we are going to deny, and there are further consequences if we see repeat offenders of that where we deny vendor accounts. We've had to do that a few times just because people were putting up too much stuff that was clearly adult in nature and they were just marking it as G because they know that that's available to a broader audience. Again, continuing with metadata and images, one of the things that we've seen a lot of is vendors saying, put up a 5-star review and we'll give you an incentive, whether it's unlocking your app or we're going to give you another one of my apps for free. But as long as you give a 5-star review, any instance or anything related to that, if we catch that, we're asking it to be removed and we're not actually approving the application till it's removed. So please be aware of that. Screenshots and icons, similar to app name and description, they need to be suitable for all ages. So it becomes tricky with some of the adult apps that we do allow, like the Kama Sutra apps. We allow the application, they're rated A, the screenshots and icons still need to be appropriate. So while it becomes tricky sometimes to really show what the app is and what's within the app, you want to get clean screenshots. Icons and screenshots cannot be taken or displayed on a competing device. We've had this come a lot. They've sent us a screenshot and we realized that their screenshot was on an iPhone. We're going to deny that. Simple as that. Keywords. Again, what we watch for carefully, because a lot of people do abuse this, for keywords, use words that are relevant to your application. We found apps that could be a calculator, and under keywords they have Facebook, Twitter, Google Maps, just to try to get more hits. So when someone's searching for Facebook, oh, they see this calculator. We look for that, and if we catch that, we're denying it. Okay, illegal content. I'm going to go into some examples of some of the illegal content that's clear, black and white. We're not allowing it. But what I do want to highlight in this slide is keep in mind that BlackBerry World, as the name entails, is global. So when you distribute your application, be aware of the global legality of your application. In certain regions, while your app may be legal, in other regions, it could be illegal. And it is the vendor's responsibility to know that. We put in all our disclaimers, we put in all the tools in order for you guys to select the specific regions that you want to distribute your application in. So it is your responsibility to determine, okay, this is risque, it's allowed here, but is it allowed everywhere? So a lot of this, again, is brain dead easy, but we're going to go over it quickly. Depiction of children or minors 18 years or younger in a sexual manner. Not allowed. Hate speech. Not allowed. Enabling the user to acquire or create illicit drugs. I'm going to go into more detail on this one, but again, right now, not allowed. Illegal access to copyrighted material. Also not allowed. And crude content or functionality. Now, there's a lot of games out there, and we go into the violence section, and just trying to elaborate on crude. There's games there that people are blowing up, and they're cartoon images, and that's fine. We had one application that had someone's head, and it was a real-life image of someone's head being barbecued. And that's where we had to draw the line, that this is where it falls in that crude category. And again, not allowed. So you need to be careful. And by all means, we have so many avenues out there. If there's some content that you're putting together and you're like, this walks a gray line, I'm not sure, we're going to give other sessions, and our cards are here. You can talk to us about it. We can share more so on what we allow and what we don't allow. So, any porn, any sort of pornographic material, not allowed. Dating apps. This is the sexual content section. And for dating apps, we allow them, but keep in mind, we're enforcing that all dating apps be rated A for adult. And that's because majority, if not all, dating applications or dating websites, they require you to be 18 plus. Any app that contains, promotes, or otherwise facilitates escort services or prostitution will be denied. Again, when you go into different areas, different regions, it's legal in some areas, it's illegal in other areas. As a business decision, BlackBerry decided that regardless of where it is, when it comes to prostitution or escort services, we're not allowing it. Alcohol and tobacco. So this is always an interesting one because in general, for alcohol especially, there are specific guidelines when you want to do any sort of promotion of alcohol, any sort of functionality related to alcohol. So for example, an alcohol finder. I want to know it's a GPS. I want to know, based on my location, where's the closest place that I can find a Corona. I also want to know where they have a patio, outside patio. They're very functional applications, but they come with guidelines that you must adhere to, so be watchful for the regulations in the region you're distributing your application. Those are functional apps. Apps that are simply marketing or simply promoting alcohol, again, very stringent guidelines. What I call out here is promotes sales or excessive usage of tobacco, cigars, cigarettes, and or smokeless tobacco will be denied. So we're talking about actual sales. So anything that's trying to sell cigarettes, tobacco through an app will be denied. Apps that depict or promote underage drinking will also be denied. So again, the legality of underage drinking as it goes through in different regions. The next one's a very interesting one, something that we added more recently, and it has to do with DUI checkpoints. So there was an application, and some of you may be more aware of this, where it informed the user that there was a police check ahead to see if you're drinking and driving. And this application was filled based on user feedback, user-generated content, where users would go in, okay, I saw there was a check at this intersection. Everyone on this app now gets a notification as they get closer to that checkpoint. We're not allowing applications like that because this is circumventing protective measures that are being put on by police, and we don't want to empower users with that type of functionality. Violence. I touched on violence earlier, but again, in generic terms, depicts obscene or gratuitous violence will be denied. So this gets a little touchy with a lot of games. As the graphics get better, things look a lot more realistic. And we allow it on the cartoon nature. It becomes when it's, if you get a Sims-like environment where people are being blown up and where we need to be careful. And so this is why I use a good judgment on this. We have a lot of examples when you go onto the website. There's a lot of examples there, and if you have questions, ask me about that after the presentation. Apps that depict or encourage realistic use of weapons. We had an app that was trying to mimic the Columbine shooting. So there's a taste component where basically much a guy was going on with a sniper shooting children. And there's, again, bad taste is one thing, but just the violent nature of the application, we denied it. And you get, and see where I'm using examples that are pretty black and white. You can tell, yeah, that doesn't make sense. But there are some things that come into a gray area. Illicit drugs and drug paraphernalia. So, being in Amsterdam, this is very interesting. Basically, if you get an app that tries to connect you with someone to obtain illicit drugs, so in layman terms, if it's a drug dealer who puts out an app and say, okay, reach me anytime you connect to me through this app, we're not going to allow it. Okay, regardless of where it is, we're not allowing it. Apps that provide information on growing or manufacturing illicit drugs, they are also not allowed. Apps that include any equipment, product, or material intended for making, using, or concealing illicit drugs are also not allowed. So those are our general categories. It was a very interesting question that came up. If in a region where drugs are legal, if there was an application that simply said, okay, when you go to Amsterdam, here are the different locations that would sell marijuana. Again, they're not promoting anything. They're also not giving you information on how to make it, what to do with it. They're just saying, these are the locations that you can buy it. Because they're talking about a region where it is legal, we would allow that type of application. Now, if there was another app and in the States where they say, okay, well, here are all the intersections you can find a drug dealer, we're not going to allow that.
Just a city guide, right?
Exactly, it's just a city guide. Exactly. Branding infringements. So this one is a huge issue for us because it ends up resulting in a lot of denials, and it's just some simple things that everyone needs to be aware of. So again, I already touched on unannounced devices, so make sure you don't have any unannounced devices. Abbreviated forms of our trademark, Berry, BB, in any form, that opens up a huge red flag for us, and we don't allow it. It's against our branding rights. So if you look at our branding guidelines, we also have that available through the vendor portal. They list out all the proper ways of using BlackBerry devices. You never say BlackBerries, you always say BlackBerry devices. And there's a lot of other tidbits on there on how to brand and use our trademarks accordingly. You can't mention any other smartphones, tablets, products, or brands. It doesn't make sense for your description to be talking about the iPhone. It doesn't make sense for your screenshots to be talking about Android. Popular non-RIM brands cannot be used in the app name. So unless you're the trademark owner or you have the digital rights, don't use another trademark name. It's for your own protection and ours. We're going to make sure to catch those, and we're going to make sure to deny them or make the changes. What ends up happening, as I mentioned earlier, we have copyright process. If someone's infringing on your copyright, there's a complaint process. If someone complains and says, this person has this app up, and they're using my trademark name. If you guys don't have the digital rights, we deny it right away. Similar goes to if you're creating an app that says chat for Facebook. Make sure that you're using it according to Facebook's branding guidelines. That example of chat for Facebook, Facebook allows. Because they're okay with for Facebook because it creates an affiliation. They have the APIs needed to do that, and we're okay. There are other trademarks that if you use in a similar context, they will come at you. So this is for your own good to be very careful here. Piracy. Apps allowing a user to download torrents, binaries from Usenet. So there's a huge category here. In general, we don't allow it. Apps that infringe on any legal or trademark laws, similar to the previous point, but you need to watch for not only individual brands, but the overall trademark laws in the regions you're distributing. ROMs or game system emulators, not allowed. Web launchers without digital rights. I don't know, has anyone here built web launchers for various different sites? No? Okay. We get a lot of them at times, and it's critical, even if it's just a web launcher, that you have the digital rights. Because if you don't, the website owner can easily come after you, and now what we're doing is we're just not accepting them. We have a digital rights section in the vendor portal. If it's not filled out and it's a web launcher, it will be denied. Apps that send spoof emails, messages, also not allowed. So there's some prank type applications that you can send a message and it looks like it's coming from someone else. Right now we're not allowing that. We allowed it at one point. It caused a lot of problems and it became like, oh, is this a security issue or not? And a business decision was made, we're not going to allow those type of applications. Commerce. Okay, BlackBerry World only sells digital goods. What that means is we do not sell physical goods, and that also relates to coupling your application with the physical good. When you're selling something on BlackBerry World, it has to be all digital. If you have questions on this, ask me later, because I know there are many vendors out there, a lot of developers that do coupling, where they say, here's my app, but in order for this app to work, you need this other piece of hardware. Well, the hardware has to be sold separately and outside of BlackBerry World. It cannot be coupled within BlackBerry World. Any app that permits sales of firearms or products that could be used for firearm development, production, detection, etc. will be denied. We're not selling guns. Again, while we say physical goods, we highlight guns. Surprisingly, there were a lot of apps that tried to do something like that. Apps that promote the sale of controlled drugs. Again, we don't allow drugs, but we're calling out drugs here as physical goods. And this is an interesting one. And this goes, I mean, Peter may touch on this on the marketing side as well. Price your apps according to the functionality. We've seen some people submit apps to us, and all it is a clock with a nice design, and they were selling it for $299. Doesn't make sense. And we're not going to allow it. There was another I'm Rich app, where all it was an image of a shiny diamond, and it was for $599. The concept was that you have bragging rights that, look, I downloaded a $600 app on my phone, I must be rich. That's all the app was. We denied it, right? And the funny thing is the same vendor had actually submitted the same app into all three, so Google Play, iTunes, and BlackBerry World, and all three of us unanimously said we're denying it, we're not allowing it. So it's industry standard that way as well. Privacy. I'm almost done with the legal stuff. Privacy. If you collect any personal information on users, or if you don't post a URL for your privacy policy, it will be denied. We have a field in the vendor portal that says for your application, for your website, for your service, if you have a privacy policy, please enter it here. Make sure to use that field. A lot of people have either missed it because it was recently added, or they just choose not to. There are a lot of apps that are being pulled out because they don't have a privacy policy. So if you have one, put it up. Ultimately, this whole section about privacy is about transparency. We want our development community to be transparent to their user base. So if I am collecting information by you downloading this application, I should tell you what I'm going to do with that information. Nothing should be a surprise to the end user. Apps that are location-based. So if they're location-based, you need to make sure you have an opt-out. Sorry, go ahead. So the key there is, and so the question was, if you're collecting information on the usage of your application to improve your application. So different users are doing different things, and I'm realizing that they're always getting confused. They're always going to one area to find something, but it's not there. It's in a different area. Accordingly, I'm going to change my app to make it easier for a user. The key to that is aggregated data. there's nothing specific that identifies the user, we're okay. Because I could be doing something, but you know nothing about me. All you know is this is user A that went through these actions, and I've aggregated it based on 20 different users. Now I'm making a decision. No, because you're not collecting any personally identifiable information. Great question. Again, for location-based, you must have an opt-out. If it's location, if they pick up their location, there's a lot of, especially when it comes to children, especially when it comes to parental controls, parents don't want any app, regardless of what it's for, to determine the location of their child because they gave their phone to their child. So there must be an opt-out. This is a legal requirement. Apps that spy or track users without them being notified aware will be denied. There's a lot of apps that fall in this category. Find out where your children are or know where your wife is at all times. As long as the user knows, that's fine. As long as, if Peter wants to track me, as long as I'm aware of it, it's okay. But if he wants to track me and he does so, and the app does so in a way that I have no idea, that's where it becomes a problem. And that's where it becomes, again, a legal issue. So we don't allow it. All right, so that's all on the legal side for me. I'll be coming back near the end of the presentation. And if there are more questions on that, by all means, reach out to me in the Q&A session. Here's Tamara.
Hi, guys. So I promise a couple of things. I will never say it's not allowed and it's denied for the rest of the presentation. And I promise that you'll see a lot more screenshots. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the features of BlackBerry World on the BlackBerry 10 device. So one of the key goals that the product management team had in mind when designing the BlackBerry World storefront on the BB10 device was really to deliver a high shopping experience to our users. And we've done that with a couple of things. One of the things we've done is by opening up our content type to be beyond apps and games. We've now delivered music and video, which is a great addition. What it means is that there's going to be a lot more traffic in the storefront. The other thing that we've done is we've added and improved on our UI and user experience within the client. We've eaten our own dog food. We've built and integrated our product with Cascades. We have leveraged the share framework to allow our users to share the content that they've downloaded and purchased in the storefront easily. And another thing that we've done is we've really brought and highlighted key content on the homepage. We've introduced top lists. We have trending top lists that you'll see in the storefront today. What's coming up will be top grossing as well. Searching is even easier. We've made searching on different levels. We have universal search on the home front, as well as searching within each content type. So whether you're in games, whether you're in apps, music, or video, you'll be able to search within that catalog of content for the item that you're looking for. And we've done all those things. And what that really translates to you as a developer is that now your app can be easily discoverable. There's more opportunities to be highlighted. There's more opportunities to be seen in the trending lists. And that's just really encouraging overall. If you break it down by piece, also what we have on the content channels is more featured marketing space. And that's pretty important because it means that there's, again, more opportunity for your apps to be discovered, more opportunities to highlight it. We have two levels of content that can be highlighted. We have a featured carousel, which we have known from the previous storefronts. We also have micro banners as well, where BlackBerry can use the space to advertise specific content in partnership with yourselves, or advertise with specific applications that we might be launching as well. From a discovery standpoint, we talked about the universal search, sharing. We also have content industry rating and filtering. We also allow users to be able to set the parental controls. So there's lots of controls in place to make sure that your storefront experience is very unique to you or unique to your family members that you want to ensure that you're comfortable with the level of their experience within the storefront. In addition, we continue to offer the same payment options. We are still a leader by offering all three, PayPal, credit card, and namely carrier billing. And we continue to deliver a lot of monetization strategies and opportunities with in-app building, with subscriptions, etc. One of the other key things that we've added with the client. Now, this is now, you've already heard about BlackBerry Balance in the keynote from numerous folks so far. But what BlackBerry Balance allows us to do is to deliver an enterprise client within the workspace. With integration with the BlackBerry Enterprise Server, which means that this is your device that you've taken to work. You now can, once your device is activated on that BES, you can now have a specific view of applications that have been sanctioned by your employer for work. Why that's pretty key is not only can they push and make available applications that they have behind their firewall on their application servers, but they can also make applications available from the public storefront. So that means that they can actually whitelist your applications and make available on the work side of the things, which means, again, more sales, more downloads, more opportunities. And doing so is quite easy. In the past, it potentially required developers to work with an organization, sign a contract for being able to distribute those licenses within that corporation. It could take days, months, weeks, right? And what we've done now is it's as simple as the administrator going to the BlackBerry World storefront on the web, being able to find an application and be able to literally copy the URL of that application, paste it into the BES 10 administrative console, and managing it from the BES 10. It literally takes 10 minutes. So having the discoverability both on the consumer side as well as on the enterprise side is very key. That's something that we are planning to evolve as a product and feature and functionality to continue to make your applications and content available on both sides. Of course, we leverage the BlackBerry World storefront experience, so we still allow, the experience on the work side is very consistent. We allow the same download and purchase experience. Notifications work in the same way, so once you update your application within the storefront, the updates are available both on the consumer side as well as the enterprise side. So all your customers will have the latest versions, taking advantage of any updates that you've made. And we'll also allow the end users to manage the content in My World. So they can still see all of the content that their enterprise has pushed down to them, whether it's pushed down directly behind the firewall or whether they have been whitelisted from the public storefront. I'll also talk a little bit about the vendor portal experience and really how to submit and manage your applications. A few of you I heard or I saw earlier are not yet BlackBerry World vendors. And to do so is quite easy. It's literally 4 easy steps. We'll share the URLs with you at the end of the presentation, but once you get to the vendor portal site, you'll be asked to register as a vendor. You'll have to agree to the terms and conditions, of course, and you may have to agree to a few of them if you want to sell content within the store. But you literally provide us with your personal information, so your email, username, and your credentials. And then you provide your company information, so your company name, what type of legal entity it is, and again, address and that such information, fax information. And then you decide whether you want to register your PayPal account, because we need a way to pay you later if you decide to pay apps, but it's, of course, optional at that point. And then you submit. Very shortly after, you'll get an email with the next steps on what to do. They'll provide you with access to this link. You will use your credentials to sign in, and then you're into the vendor portal. There's a few key things that you'll be able to do in the vendor portal that we want to highlight. It'll be more of an overview, and later on, again, we'll talk about where you can get more details. There's a couple other presentations that will kind of dive into more details on some of what we're highlighting here today. One of the first things that you'll want to do when you get into the vendor portal is add a product, because you're here to sell and distribute your content. Well, by adding a product, you're basically providing your product information. So this is the title of your application. You can provide things like you can create your own SKU. You can decide if you want to do a free or paid application. You could decide on the license type. That's where you'll end up picking the ratings for your applications, etc. You'll add your description for your application, which, by the way, we allow you to add descriptions short and long at platform level and by language. And again, we'll have more details on a presentation that Peter's doing actually right after this session. After all that information is done, you can then add your release. And this is your actual binary file. You can also include your release notes specific to that particular binary, be able to determine which target OS it's available for, minimum OS, carrier, etc. And that's pretty much it. It's pretty simple to add a release under that. And then the other thing you could do is add a virtual good if you wanted to sell in-app goods. The key thing that you'll be able to do as well, and you heard a lot about the Built for the BlackBerry program, is you can actually register for the Built for BlackBerry program from the vendor portal. To qualify, of course, your application has to be a BlackBerry 10 app. So, you'll see the option to do so only if you've submitted a BlackBerry 10 application, and you'll hear back from the team once that app has been approved or denied. If it is denied, you'll see commentary on the reasons for the denial and be able to make the adjustments to get into that program. It's a great program, and we're hoping to see a lot of adoption. Additional to that, you'll be able to do things like manage your account, being able to edit the information that you set up when you originally registered, or be able to add different users to be able to log in and manage and add content to the storefront as well. Access to the download and purchase reports is also available from this portal. But in a nutshell, that's what the vendor portal is there for. It's to really help you to deliver content and make it available to the store. So Peter's going to talk a little bit more about the go-to-market strategies for BlackBerry World.
Thanks, Tamara. Hi, everyone. So you've, at this point, got your content in the store. It's been approved, thankfully. You've made it through all the fire holes and places where it could get denied. Tamara sort of walked you through really high level about how to get your products into the store, some of the options and controls that you have available to you. But then it's really time to think about how do you go to market. And there's some key questions you really want to address before you do go to market. Naveen kind of touched on, there's some legalities in terms of, when you go to a certain market and you have certain type of content, there are some requirements that you need. But there's also some other things that are a little more marketing side that you really want to consider too. So you really want to think about, basic things like language support. Do you have your content localized? Those are some basic key questions. Pricing. So you have one price, and we'll go into this in another session in greater detail, but you have one price per product. So if you want to, unfortunately we don't have pricing by country yet, something we want in the future, but if you want to price at a drastically different level in a different market, you're going to have to submit another product SKU. So that's another key consideration as you go to market. You also want to consider, in terms of your monetization, look at the countries you're going to. So in North America and a lot of the developed world, credit cards are ubiquitous, and it's not a problem to sell your content via credit card or PayPal. But in some markets, they require carrier billing because credit is a problem, and those are usually more developing markets. So we are the leaders in the industry in terms of carrier billing, but we don't have it with every carrier. So that's a key consideration in terms of how am I going to monetize this? Is that part of my strategy or not? So you really want to think about that and ensure that you have a way to, or you're in line with how you want to monetize your content. As well, Tamara and Naveen touched on digital goods and subscriptions. Those are definitely great ways to monetize your application. But again, the same three payment types apply. So credit card, PayPal, and carrier billing. So those are definitely key considerations. Another alternative, if you're in some of those markets where payment might be a little bit tougher, maybe advertising is the way you want to go down. And there's a number of advertising services you can use to try and monetize your content. There's some other, just foundational things you really want to consider. Some key variables. I talked about language support, but making sure that all the details, throughout your product SKU, and again, there's another session that goes into this in greater detail, but making sure you leverage and localize all your descriptions, your screenshots, every piece of metadata you can, make sure you localize that for those markets before you go to market. Otherwise, you'll get bad reviews. Like you see a lot of content that go to the Latin America region, but they have no Brazilian Portuguese or Latin America Spanish localization, and therefore get a poor review. Not necessarily because the app or game is not that great. It's just it's not localized, and it's a consideration, and people are passionate about it in those markets. So you really got to think about that. And in some markets, it's not a big deal, and people are very tolerant of English, and you know, it might be a secondary language in that country, similar to here. Another really foundational thing is get social, like set up a marketing platform essentially so that you can cross promote your content. So if you have multiple applications, you know, have a Facebook page with all your content items that you can try and cross promote, try and drive traffic there. Just really basic things that can really go a long way to increasing the discoverability of your content. Some other, try and execute some marketing. I know, like, depends on how large your company is. You might be a one-man shop, or you might have, teams of people. And trying to market your content is always a great way to increase discoverability and grow your brand and your downloads and your revenue. Sometimes it's harder than, for the smaller guys. But social is a great way. Our devices are very social in nature, and there's a lot of great features that you'll hear throughout the conference about making your app social and integrated, and that's a key functionality you can really leverage to promote your content. But little things like special offers, dropping your price, for a limited time period. We see vendors do it all the time. We work with vendors often to lower price, maybe across all their content items. So it could be, we're working with Halfbrick and looking to, lower the price of Jetpack Joyride and Fruit Ninja for a limited time period, just to sort of, run a promotion in a given market. So we do that, and you guys should look to do that as well, because it's a great way to try and generate interest of your content. We even see different strategies among developers. Typically, a lot of the larger, gaming houses will have a higher price, and then over time they'll lower price. And it's sort of vice versa with a smaller gaming developer. We see a lot of them have lower price to sort of get people onto using the game, and then they raise price. Sometimes it's even free, and then goes to paid, and they try and generate revenue that way. Gets a little tricky in terms of switching from free to paid, but it is possible to do. So again, there's another session actually right after this, JAM347. We're going to dig in deeper in terms of the metadata and how you sort of need to manage your products. Price is sort of fixed across the board, but there's a lot of things that are platform specific in terms of the metadata, as well as other elements are language specific, and some are country specific. So we'll dig into that a little bit more, but these are all key considerations you want to think about before you go to market. There's an example of some special offers that vendors have done in the past. And then the other one is so we call it in-kind partner marketing. We're always looking for partners to leverage our Get It at BlackBerry World logo. Please, the logos are available for you to use on your websites. And you can use it as a hyperlink, a button on your website if you have one, to drive back to your content items. And that could either be, if you have, you can drive back to all of your content items, so it's essentially a search result for your vendor name, or you can drive back to specific ones. These are all available. I don't know if are they on the vendor portal? I can't remember. Yeah, they're on the vendor portal. And then as well, we have an email address, BlackBerry World Marketing at rim.com. That will soon change to blackberry.com. But you can always email us, and we'll be happy to send those out to you. And we have them in multiple languages as well. So those are really just some real basics, some real foundational things to think about before you go to market. And definitely, check out the other session if you want to get a little more deeper on localization and metadata stuff, if you want to dig in further. So I think that's it from me. So Naveen, back to you.
So we gave you a great overview of, I'm saying great.
We think so.
We gave you an overview for BlackBerry World. There are 2 other sessions that go into a little bit more detail, so they're posted up there. Leveraging BlackBerry services and promotion and monetization strategies. So definitely attend those sessions as well, especially if you're a lot more interested in submitting an app or how to improve your app experience right now, whether it's from a monetization perspective or leveraging all the different services. Also, for all the people who did put their hands up that they are not currently a BlackBerry World vendor, there is an a BlackBerry World booth that's set up there actually, in that corner. You can go there. There's a great guy there, Jordan, and you can actually provide all the information. He'll walk you through the registration process right on site. And instead of submitting documentation that's required, which is like proof of incorporation or government issue ID, he'll actually just look at it. He'll just ask for a piece of ID. Once he sees that, he'll be able to register you right away. So that's immediate registration. So it's a lot quicker than doing it otherwise. And also, if you have apps, there's another booth that's set up for porting your apps, and it's the app generator booth. Go to that session, go to that booth. They'll be able to take care of your existing application and give you information on how to port it over, or simply put, how to improve your application as well. So that's all from us. Oh.
Don't forget.
Yes, don't forget.
Housekeeping item.
Clearly.
We forgot.
So yeah, download the app, the Mobile Commerce Guide, complete your session surveys, and join us at BlackBerry Jam Europe Appreciation Event, which is tonight on the ground floor. This was added afterwards. But what I want to do right now is take an opportunity to thank you all. I know there was a lot of information thrown at you at the same time, so thank you for paying attention, and give you guys an opportunity to ask any questions right now. So we do have a wireless mic that we can go around for anyone who has questions. Okay.
Oh, so communicate with any reviews that you've got?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that we've definitely have a lot of internal discussion on. We recognize it is the right step to do and to be able to allow vendors to be able to communicate. We're working through how that can be done, and so what will happen is once we've solidified on what the solution is, we'll be able to communicate that feature is coming and give you more information through the vendor portal. There's a vendor notification that goes out to you guys when there's any changes in general. We'll keep you informed through that channel, but it's something that we talk about internally ongoing today.
Is there a timeline?
There's not a specific timeline as yet, but again, that will be provided to you guys once we've confirmed that.
And we've heard that from many vendors that have been looking for that functionality, so we're definitely addressing it. It again falls under the privacy concerns. When a user does put a review, does that automatically say that he's willing to be contacted by the vendor? And so we're working through the fine details there. Any other questions? Yes. Just wait for the mic. There we go.
Hello. I was wondering if there are plans to implement a way to control distribute some beta versions or promo codes, so I can give my application to some people to test before I can actually put it on the store.
Glad you asked the question. Want to take it?
As they all point to me. So promo codes, developer promo codes, something that we've heard from a lot of developers. I'm actually going to be around taking in, and really one of the key things that I'm here to do is gather a lot of the requirements and understand the specific use case, because they might vary from developer to developer as the needs of your application or content might change. But it's something again that we talk about internally, but what we do is we try to reach out to get that information back. So let's talk about it after this session.
Thank you.
But yeah, no, it's something that's a passion for me as well. And your first question was, your other question before that was?
No, that was all the question.
Okay.
It was one question.
Okay, great.
Anyone else? There we go.
Hi. Is it possible to have a free trial version of a game or an app and a paid full version at the same page in App World?
So can you repeat the last part? So have a free
on
version.
the same page, is it possible to have a trial version of
I think you're talking about try and buy.
Yeah,
We used to have the concept of try and buy, but we've removed that. I think we announced that at the this conference last year. And part of the reason is because we've seen a higher adoption by using in-app and digital goods to distribute and being able to make your application free and using in-app payments to sell a component of your application, as well as subscription. Exactly.
So you can have one free month subscription, essentially, right?
So the freemium model basically is more favorable and has been more successful industry-wide. So that's why we've went away from the try and buy. So there is a solution.
Okay. We have another question over here. Great.
How about the piracy on the BlackBerry platform? You have any data how it looks like? Because on Android it's very high. How it's on BlackBerry?
So you're looking at piracy issues?
Yeah, I mean, how many people will pirate my app? For instance, it's paid. Then how many of the users will pirate it? Do you have any information on that?
Yeah. So what we've done is, which is different, we're actually incorporating catching pirated apps at the ingestion level itself. So as opposed to them getting on the storefront, then us taking a reactive approach, which with all honesty, we will continue doing because there will be things that get through that people don't have visibility on. And in that situation, we will remove them as soon as possible. We're trying to have a proactive approach where as soon as we see something, it's flagged as a pirated app, we just don't let it in. And in terms of stats of how many actually come in like that.
But are you actually talking about people who copy my app and post it as free, right? I mean, what about people who, for instance, root their devices and install my cracked app? How does it look like? Because it's very common on Android.
So you can only download content to your device from the store. So it's like we have tools internally to sideload, but end users cannot.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Oh, a bit.
Yeah, how about I'll have a discussion with you after the session. I'll make sure I get your answer. Any other questions? Okay, if anyone wants, oh, there we go.
So you mentioned the ugly word routing. Do you think your platform is strong enough not to get rooted?
Rooted? Sorry, rooted? Started?
Routing, cracking, the security features.
Oh, security.
Right, so from a security perspective, I mean, it's what BlackBerry has built its name on. So I mean, the jailbreaking that you would see,
yes.
jailbreaking that you see on iOS, we don't have that problem today, right? And in terms of how strong is it moving forward, from what BlackBerry stands for, it's one of the pillars of our platform is on the security side. So whenever there is any sort of potential leak or potential anything, like we're on it prior to the general public even knowing what can be done or can't be done. So if you're asking my personal opinion, I'm sure these guys are going to agree with me. I'm very confident that that's not a problem today, but it's not going to be a problem moving forward either. Go ahead.
Do you know when you'll support localized screenshots? Because at the moment, I have to put all 17 languages as 50 screenshots, and it's a bit of a disaster, really.
Right, that's probably, they're all going to look at me, the product person. So yeah, we again, that's another one that even the marketing team pushes on us every day for. It's something, again, it's a matter of prioritizing our features. You know, we've spent a lot of effort to delivering a BlackBerry 10 solution. I talked about some of the features and functionalities. It's just a matter of prioritizing and delivering it. But it's something that we recognize there's a need for, again. And we'll communicate with you guys through the typical processes once that's available. But again, happy to sit down and talk to you and just to get your information so I can bring that back to the product team.
So in short, it's coming soon. It's definitely coming soon. Any other questions? Saw some other hands go up. Maybe not. Okay. Again, if anyone does have any specific questions, we can have one-on-one sessions. All three of us are available. We have our cards and everything, and let us know. Once again, thank you very much.